You know when people see us and they're like, oh my God, you're so wise and you're so young, and it's trauma.
Is it?
I really want you to know it is the trauma.
Some of you are showing more sisterhood to your friends than your sister.
Oh, Jesus. Well, drag us then. Drag us by our eyelashes, in fact.
Some of you are serving other men better than you're serving your brothers. Listen, and because the only love they have seen or demonstrated is mothering, they're mothering their partners.
Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Courtney.
And I'm Renee, and we are your online big sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
We are all about promoting the wellness, growth and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episode, dun, 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 we're going to be talking about that eldest daughter syndrome and the lowdown on sibling relationships.
Let's go there.
Ooh, child.
Let's go there.
This was heavily requested by the sisters, might I say.
Yeah.
Every single time we asked, guys, we need episode ideas. Consistently, eldest daughters.
And I get why. It's a hell of a thing.
We've been going through it.
We need to talk about it.
We've been going through it.
We have.
But before we get into that, Miss Courtney.
Hello.
First of all, how are you doing?
I am well. I'm very warm.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the city of London has decided summer's going to show up late to the party. We're currently having a heat wave and I'm hot.
Oh,
I am hot.
It's hot as hell. It is hot as hell.
But also I am very, very well.
Yeah.
I've taken a few days to just rest. I feel like every time I come on the podcast, I talk about rest.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've been resting. They must be thinking, what the heck are you
Do
going
you do?
through? Do you do anything? No, I had a really busy week last week. So I've just needed to recuperate, realign with my goals. I felt like life was definitely taking over and just, I felt like I was losing control and grip on things. So I decided to just hit reset and I'm good now. Like, I'm like, me and my goals are so aligned now.
Right.
Me and God are aligned now. Let's get back on this grind.
I like that.
Yeah, man. How about yourself, Miss Renee?
No, I'm good. I'm actually well. I'm actually a little bit tired. I'm looking forward to the weekend and sleeping. It's been a really busy week for me, and I'm tired. I can't I guess give thanks enough to, I think, my mornings this week have been so pivotal for me. Like, I've really been dedicating my mornings to like my time and carving out, like, I've been very consistent with waking up at this time, doing this in the morning, and it's helped so much in terms of shaping my outlook for the rest of the day. I've really enjoyed my mornings. I've been back like consistent with like workouts and stuff since COVID situation. And man, I'm feeling good. Definitely ready for that. Listen, after hump day, basically Friday, isn't it? And I'm going to be asleep.
We're recording this on a Wednesday.
I'm going to be asleep.
Gosh. Friday.
But yeah, that's me. I just wanted to come in and check in a roll. Because you know the sisters, they be like, we want a dilemma and then we want the story. But we also want to know how you're doing.
I know, right? The sisters really do care. I really like that, man. I like the emphasis on having a morning routine and how much having that time of prioritized self-care at the beginning of the day actually matters, because I feel like self-care is often something we see as like an emergency thing. You do it in response. So like the saying prevention is better than cure is actually so pertinent here, because self-care is not your medicine. Do you get what I mean? It's more so a preventative measure as much as it is something to recovery. For sure.
Love that. Well, we're moving on to D4 dilemma.
Let's go there. There's a sister in need of help.
Yes, and it's a sister from Germany. Okay.
Oh, I've actually been to Germany.
Really?
Shout out. I've been twice.
Is it Guten Tag or
yeah.
Yeah. Guten Tag. You guys are gonna get sick of me when you come in with like, I'm from this country. Good morning. All right, dilly dallying. All right. Cool. Hello, dear sisters.
Hello, sis.
I am one of the younger sisters of this community. I'm 17 years old and from Germany.
Hey.
Guten Tag, sis.
Wow.
What's good?
She will kill us with
I
that.
absolutely will. Y'all gonna be dead with that Guten Tag.
Sweet 17.
I have a best friend. He and I have been friends for a long time now. I caught feelings for him a long time ago, and in October 2020, I told him how I felt. He rejected me in a nice way and said he wants to stay friends.
Good.
But before and after I told him, he always gave me signs that he likes me too. He gave me a lot of compliments that are more romantic, and he comments under my Instagram posts in a more romantic manner. People in school always asked us if we were dating. After I told him that I like him and I told him about the way that he compliments me, he still compliments me on how good I look and uses a lot of pickup lines. I don't know what to think about it since we're still best friends. And to this day, I still have feelings.
Okay.
What should I do? Approach him again and ask him how he feels now, or just leave it and continue the friendly relationship, or just end the friendship? Any advice?
Why is it when the dilemma comes, end the friendship is always like it's like, oh guys, we don't need to
cut the cord, cut the record. We're done here.
I hear that though. Okay. I think it's less of a thing of okay. I think one of the main things I was concerned about when I was first listening was, I hope you are not taking his friendliness for flirtation. I think that's one thing that women can do and girls can do when it's like, oh, you're being so friendly, you must like me like that. And it's like, no, I just like your dress, you know? Yeah. But it sounds like because people around you are also perceiving this as romantic, it seems like a valid, the signs that you're picking up on seem valid. I think this is not a case of like cut you off as a friend. And it's also not a case of let's continue to toe this line of lack of clarity. I think as best friends, as close friends, you should be confident now enough to say, this is not me approaching you. I'm actually seeking clarity. Yeah. There seems to be some blurred lines here in regards to our relationship. Of course, I've previously mentioned to you that like, I do have some kind of romantic interest in you, but you know, I was happy when you let me know it's not reciprocal, and that's completely cool. But I'm still picking up on these vibes, and I for my personal like peace of mind, as well as for this friendship to really thrive, I need to know where we stand. And so we really need to clarify these blurred lines when it comes to these aspects of what it is that you're doing. So the flirtation, when you say these things, this is what I'm receiving. I don't know if that's your intention. Can you really outline what your intention is in not only saying these things and behaving this way, but also with me? So do you have intentions to maybe embark on something romantic? Since we last had this conversation, this is not all things you should hurdle at one time. This is me giving you different area points. But like, since we last had this conversation, have feelings evolved in you? But I really need clarification here. I really need to know where I stand, because I don't want to be unsure of whether a romantic relationship is really something I should be pursuing with you. And I also don't want to be I also don't want to not give you the opportunity to just be open about your feelings. And I think you need to let him know this is your opportunity to be open about your feelings. Do you like me? Don't you? And we can work from there. But I think letting him know, because you are a good friend to me, because I care about you, and because I believe you care about me, I need clarity on this right now. And so let's just have a open, honest conversation. Let me let you know what I'm receiving and what I'm perceiving from what it is you're doing. This is my interpretations of your actions and our current friendship. But I want to know, is that your actual intention? Because I don't want to assume anything. So I think that would be a good way to go about it. But I'm very interested to hear what you've got to say, Miss Renee.
You be out here talking about you're interested. I was finna say something similar to you. So no, I completely agree insofar as articulating these things, because if you are this close to this person, you should be able to be like, yo, what is going on, right? And the fact that other people, I love the fact that you touched on the fact that other people are like picking up on this is a bit romantic. This is a little bit flirtatious, and this man is spoiling your market if that's not the case. Do you know what I mean? Especially on something like Instagram. Dude, it's public.
This is so true. Public comments like that. People be out here thinking, so your man's up in the comments, let me back away. This time someone's trying to slide into your DMs.
And this man is spoiling your market.
Very good point.
So I think having the conversation and literally sitting down with him and saying, or even redressing boundaries if it's a case of it's him being friendly, okay, you need to articulate that his friendliness is being perceived as flirtation.
Yeah.
So he needs to behave.
Yeah.
Or like he needs to, because there are a couple of like guys that I know, for example, in terms of they can be, what they do can be perceived as flirtation, but you actually just need to have the conversation of, this is my boundary here, and this is what this looks like or sounds like to me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need you to stop.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna need you to pause or like chill out on that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that other people are perceiving and not just you.
100%.
Because like I said, it's spoiling your market, sis. And
big time.
You a young spring chicken, you know what I'm saying?
Time.
Can't be out here in public.
Yeah.
In public.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
In public. So yeah, definitely, I wouldn't say this is a cut the friendship off because it's best friends. You know, I'm sure you guys have some really exciting, you know, experiences and all that kind of stuff. And you guys are fairly young, so it might even be a thing of like a grow and glow type situation where there is some growing that needs to occur. Like you both are very, very young. He may not know what constitutes as like very flirtatious or very, you know, friendly.
Yeah.
So that may be a journey that both of you guys need to go through. And I think also understanding and working through your own feelings, because it's clear that you still have feelings for this person. And yeah, if understanding what would your response be either way. So if he does say, you know, I do fancy you or I do like you, then, you know, what would your response be? Or if he says, no, actually it's a friendship type situation, understanding that you need to process and get over that is really important for the friendship to continue.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
Yeah. I like this dilemma. Does he like me? Does he like me not? Very classic, traditional.
Classic.
Dilemma to have as a woman, as a fair maiden.
As a fair maiden.
So yeah, I think that's really good advice actually. I think preparing yourself for any possible outcome. Yeah. And it's good actually that you have the foresight to be able to do that before you have that conversation. So rather than, you know, being caught off guard. I know. Just process through every possible option and then basically rehearse your reaction.
Yeah, there you go.
I like that.
And if he says no, just I never thought I didn't like you either. No, I'm trolling. I'm trolling. But lots of love, sis. We hope that the situation gets resolved in a healthy and, you know, wholesome way. And of course, sisters, we've definitely been noticing some of y'all been responding to the dilemmas in the comments.
Yes.
And we love it.
We do.
Please, it takes the onus off of us.
We do.
But also, we know that a lot of you guys have so much wisdom to share, and we want to make sure that this is a community where you feel comfortable enough to do that. So if you do have any additions to the dilemma solving, please drop them like it's hot in the comments below. And if you are listening on another platform, guys, join us on YouTube. Come on. We know you want to. And something very special is coming when we hit a specific number.
Oh, yes.
When y'all decide to hop on over to the YouTube family, you will be rewarded.
Good stuff.
Okay, I just. Now, getting into the main meal of this 3-course.
So kind of a disclaimer to this. We are not licensed therapists, and we are talking on experience and how we've been able to process through our own personal experiences. Absolutely. We are still works in progress. Absolutely. And we are also people who allow ourselves room to grow and glow. Absolutely. And in that, we're giving ourselves rooms to say something that you may not agree with. And we want to hear your thoughts in the comments as well. But I really wanted to outline, we are not therapists. We are
absolutely not.
We are learning, we are reading, we are studying, we are doing what we can.
We do the work. We definitely do the work. Oh, we praying. We definitely praying.
But we aren't therapists. And so if you are actually seeking to find a professional therapist who can help,
know it.
Girl, you already know.
I know
you can actually find somebody to help you work through this issue, similar to what I did actually, helping you work through these issues, these feelings. Even if you don't know that this is a problem until you listen to this episode, you can go and find accessible and affordable therapy on where I get my therapy, which is BetterHelp. You can get linked to so many different, this video isn't sponsored by BetterHelp, but if you do use our link, it does help us create more content and help grow the community, because we do get a commission and an affiliate, but it doesn't cost you extra or anything like that. BetterHelp is super affordable, and it's really accessible because it's all done virtually, and you get access to therapists all over the world who are qualified, who know about this stuff way more than we know about this stuff, and can actually help you heal and help you process through these feelings that you have. So if you are looking for a therapist, which we always recommend that you do, just head to the link in the description here. It will also be in the show notes on Spotify or Apple. But if you are listening, it is betterhelp.com /to my sisters.
Love to see it. Love to see it.
Brace yourself, sis.
Eldest sibling, the sibling relationships. And what I really love about this particular topic is a lot of us, when we're talking about family, talk about the vertical relationships, right? We think about generations, our grandparents, our parents, and we don't really spare a thought for our horizontal relationships how we engage with like our brothers and our sisters and all of that kind of good stuff. So having this whole concept of the eldest daughter, I think, is a really great, like, you know, doorway into those conversations about our relationships with our siblings. So, Miss Courtney.
Hello.
I believe you are an eldest daughter of sorts.
Of sorts. Complex family dynamics. Complex family dynamics. But yes, growing up in my household, I was the eldest daughter of my mother's children. I am the eldest daughter. And it's an interesting place to hold. But I believe that this is something we share in common, Miss Renee.
Most unfortunate. I'm joking. Yes, I too am the eldest daughter of my mother's children. Although not the eldest sibling, funnily enough. So I have an older brother. Shout out to my older brother. How you doing, bro? I won't name him because I know that some of you guys will go and find him. But I do have an older brother, and then I have 2 little sisters.
Lovely.
So,
Lovely.
But to break into the conversation, Courtney, I thought we should start with something a little bit more positive, because I think it's really easy to kind of be like, oh, I'm an eldest daughter, I'm an eldest sibling, help me, I'm dying.
Send help.
What do you enjoy about being the eldest daughter?
What do I enjoy about being the eldest daughter? I don't know.
Trying to dig deep to find it.
Because it's buried under a lot of stuff. I don't know if this is specifically about having that particular position. Yeah. But I do think that just generally having siblings is lit. Yeah. I love having siblings. Yeah. I love the fact that like there are other people who can so resonate and relate to and empathize with my life because they grew up in the same environments I grew up in, have the same history that I do, and know me more intimately pretty much than anyone in the world. I really love that. I think very superficial, but being the oldest daughter or one of the elder siblings, I love the fact that like I can boss people around and just be like, I'm sorry, but by virtue of the fact that this is my sibling position, these are your tasks. But that expires very quickly when your younger siblings hit adolescence and they know their rights. Yeah, very unfortunately. Sad. But it's a very short-lived experience. But I think the first daughter position, because it comes with so much responsibility and so many expectations, it can be very difficult to walk that path, and that those negatives kind of overshadow any positive experience you have for it. Because similarly, I have elder siblings, and still, I feel like the weight of being a first daughter is basically like, in fact, it can be heavier than the weight of being the first child, because if the first child is a boy, you kind of get some certain privileges. But anyway, I think that overshadows everything for me. So like when I'm struggling to think of what's great about being the first daughter, I think that's why, because the negatives are like, they're just so prevalent. I don't know if I can personally pinpoint. This is a key benefit of being the first daughter in a family. I think maybe further down the line, if you do manage to kind of like pass all the tests and jump over all the hurdles, I think you are then acclaimed and given some kind of affirmation for being successful and being a good example and for being the one who set pace for your younger siblings. But I think that is not enough reward for how much tribulation goes into having to be that forerunner, having to be the person who sets the example. I personally don't think that that's an upside, because I think once you do get acknowledged for, thank you for all your effort, thank you for basically being a second mom, thank you for it's like okay, but I'm full of so much resentment towards the fact that I had to do all these things. I don't want to be awarded for my suffering. And I think that that's like one of the key parts of being an older sibling, or an older sibling, or the eldest daughter. Yeah. Even when you do get that applause, it's like, but I didn't want to play this role anyway, so save it. Do you get what I mean? That's why I'm struggling to think of
the positives.
As you can see, this is a very weighty subject for me. But anyways, I'm gonna hand over.
We're gonna pass the mic. Okay, so yeah, I resonate strongly with every sentiment that you shared there. I think, you know, being an eldest sibling, specifically daughter, I think I resonate strongly with what you said about passing all the hurdles. And now that you're somebody of acclaim within the family, it's like, oh, you are.
That's so funny. It's true. Someone with acclaim.
You know, somebody, she turned out all right.
Yeah.
When you've gotten to a certain point, for me, especially kind of like early adulthood, right? It's very much like, oh, so you are an adult and you've done all of these kind of things and you are self-sufficient and, you know, you are a prime example of, you know, a good kid. Yes. Right?
Yeah.
And it's difficult to enjoy that positive because it's come from such trial and tribulation and such the consequences of your rebellion. It's come from so much, being under so much pressure, really. And I think
much pressure.
Listen, if you're from a household where there are very let's say interesting ideologies or, you know, structures like patriarchy in place, it can be quite difficult if you are the kind of person that is actively challenging those things as well. So I think part of the struggle of being, at least for me, being the eldest daughter, is having to simultaneously battle with all of these responsibilities and all of these things that I have to do as and function as an eldest daughter within, you know, the remit of like patriarchy and household and all of that kind of stuff. And then also trying to find the space where I actively challenge those things and actively challenge them as being part of my identity and all of that jazz. So yeah, I guess a positive is, I've become my own person, but at what cost? At what cost? I've become independent, I've become self-sufficient, and I love the fact that like I have such a strong relationship with all of my siblings by virtue of being, you know, eldest daughter. And have, but you know, taken the role of like nurturer in several different places, but at what cost? At what cost? Because I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm tired. I was tired. Girl. I was tired. And I think obviously, we've spoken a little bit about the little positives about being the eldest daughter, but I think moving on to, I guess, the more unsavory parts of being an eldest daughter. So for me, it's interesting because I was looking into this whole idea of like first daughter syndrome. Or firstborn syndrome, but more so firstborn daughter syndrome. Right. And this whole idea, I was just looking at the list of like the things that are indicative of whether you have eldest daughter syndrome. One of them being, you know, confident and advisor to like your parents, for example, taking on a nurturing role to your younger siblings, being disproportionately punished for certain rebellious acts, being independent and self-sufficient in adulthood as a result of having to do the same when you're a kid. And I was just like, wow. Yeah. If you wanted to at me, my at is at Renee Kabuku. Just put my picture here. Put my picture here. And I was just thinking, wow, in terms of what I was saying earlier about having all of these things and all of these benefits, but at what cost? And realizing that these kind of experiences that we go through as the firstborn daughter is the cost of being this kind of person later on, as well as it manifesting in so many other things like high functioning anxiety, trying to be a people pleaser, not really coping with like rebellion and like where does your identity lie? So what do you think are some of the negatives of being a firstborn daughter?
Gosh, how deep could I go into this? Okay, so similarly, I was doing like a lot of reading, a lot of like just looking at for different resources and examples of this situation, because I know I've lived it, but I really wanted to know like I wasn't crazy. Just gonna come and project so much onto it. But for anyone who doesn't really know what we're talking about, because I feel like we've gone into this with the assumption that like people get it because it is our life. It is actually we can just talk about this forever,
for sure,
because it's what we've lived. But for somebody who is more like, oh, why are they speaking so negatively? I've really enjoyed being the first daughter. Life's been great and functional for me. Essentially, the eldest daughter syndrome is like, you have become a surrogate parent. That's basically it. So you are a child, of course, and whether this happened it mainly happens more so distinctively in your childhood. So whilst you're going through that experience of growing up, formative years, because you hold that position in the birth order as the firstborn daughter, because women tend to be socialized as nurturers and caregivers, your early training is your siblings, right? So depending on the cultural context you grew up in, because in certain cultures, this is not a thing. It's not really, whilst the older siblings do have unhealthy expectations put on them for them to set examples, it kind of ends there. You're an example to your siblings. Whereas eldest daughter syndrome, and most people who go through this being the firstborn, they are relegated to a position of not only being an example, but actually being a caregiver and a source of nurturing, a source of socialization, and a source of parenting for their younger siblings. The reason why that can become so dangerous, and I think that it leads to these negative effects, is when you are put in the position of a parent as a child, the first thing that actually happens to you is you are kind of put in the position of a spouse to your parents. That's the first hurdle you kind of have to unpack when you are dealing with healing from this situation. Not only am I a second mother, I am also, to a degree, another wife or a husband. That is one of the most discombobulating things to have to realize about yourself, that your mother or your father turned you into their spouse. In reading more about this, I discovered that there are some key things we need from our parents while we are growing up. And that is them being attuned to us, them being responsive to us, them being engaged with us, them being able to regulate us when we are stressed out. Them being strong enough to handle our negative emotions, and them willing to repair when they have created, or there is a disconnection between us and them. So between us and our parents. Those are 6 things, right? And the source of this is actually an amazing podcast I'm listening to at the moment called The Place We Find Ourselves. And it's, this is just episode 2 that was killing me. So I highly recommend that everybody listen to this. But basically the reason why I bring this up is, not only do eldest daughters, when they are put in the position of parents, have to provide this for their siblings, it's something that they are denied by their parents, because their parents see them as co-equals rather than children, right? Oftentimes when you have become the husband to your mother or the wife to your dad, it's because the spouse is absent, the spouse whose place you're taking is absent, or they are emotionally absent. So even if your parent lives in the home with you or is in their marriage, they may be neglecting or denying their spouse the things that they need to have a healthy relationship, right? So they're not attuned, they're not responsive, they're not engaged, etc. If your husband is not attuned with, engaging with, or responsive to you, but you know you need those things to flourish as a person, you're going to go and seek it from whoever is next, whoever is closest. And that will often be the child you consider to be the most mature. And the maturity is not based off of character, it's based off of age. Right? And just the simple proximity that next in line in terms of responsibility in this family is the child that is the oldest. So you now go and seek this attentiveness, this engagement, this emotional support, and all of these things, even like financial support or whatever support from this child. In you needing all of this stuff, needing this emotional companionship, needing this support, you are denying the child of receiving those things because you're using them as a source. You're not seeing them as a vessel that needs to be filled. And I think that is one of the biggest sadnesses that come with being the eldest daughter or being a surrogate parent within your household. You are not parented. Do you get what I mean? The issue with that is now, who is there to help you in those formative years, not only discover your identity, but also form as a functional human being? So oftentimes, oldest siblings, not only are they matured super quickly, but even in their need to mature, they are actually unable to do it because their brain is not at the level that it needs to be at to be able to process through certain experiences that a wife, a husband, or a parent would be able to as a grown adult. So another factor to being the eldest daughter or being the firstborn is who is going to help you overcome your shortcomings. Who is going to tell you that your failure is okay? Who is going to tell you that in your times of anger, in your times of rage that naturally come as a human being, in those feelings, and also in the life experiences that you're having outside of the household, being bullied at school, failing in a particular class, or even succeeding, who is there to tell you that this is okay, this is not okay, this is how you deal with failure, this is how you deal with success, if you are not allowed to fail or be somebody who is developing, because you always have to show up as a fully formed person? It is challenging because then when you grow up, and the way you see it manifest is you don't allow yourself to go through processes of growth. You don't allow yourself to fail. You don't allow yourself to see yourself as somebody who is evolving constantly, because you, from the time you were a child, just had to be there and perfect to be able to provide and support somebody else's emotional, provisional needs. So then how do you have grace for yourself? How do you have patience for yourself? Like you listed, instead, you learn to care for everybody else but yourself. And if you're not careful, it leads to either a toxic, you allow people to take advantage of you, or you completely shut people out and your life is completely defined by resentment and bitterness. I don't want anybody to approach me, even in an attempt to love me, because I see everybody trying to draw from my knowledge, from my wisdom, from my energy as depleting me. And I think that's where I've often found myself. I don't want to make new friends because I'm tired. And this tiredness has followed me from childhood. Or I don't want to be in another relationship because I don't want to have to mother someone else. Because what I'm used to is, even though we're told we are co-equals in terms of your siblings, even though I'm told me and my siblings are on the same level, I will always have to assume the above position. And like you were saying, instead of being in a vertical relationship, you're in a horizontal relationship now, where you have to be someone else's caregiver. If I am now in a romantic relationship, I don't see it as a partnership. I see it as me basically bearing the weight of somebody else's needs. I'm tired. And that can be so hard when you're trying to move in friendship, relationship, community, where you co-serve people. It can either be that you have no expectation that people will serve you, or you don't even want to serve anyone because you don't want those doors to be open. And that's when your attachment style kind of becomes determined. And lastly, sorry, I've rambled on.
No, keep it going.
Rambled on so much. But really and truly, our parents really are there to serve our needs.
Yep.
And a lot of us struggle with this idea of expressing, I need to be loved, I need time, I need care, I need resources, because we know when I went to my mum that time to ask her for something, she wasn't able to give it to me. She made me feel as though I should not have asked, or I already knew based on her past behavior towards me, or my dad's past behavior towards me, that I shouldn't ask. I shouldn't ask anyone in my life for things. Why? Because I shouldn't expect anything. And then you kind of contextualize all of these things and your parents' bad behavior, because you're like, my mum or my dad is going through a hard time. I just saw my mum and dad fight. I've seen my mum, she's crying. My dad is really angry. So I just don't want to put extra pressure on them. And you begin to give padding to their bad behavior towards you. And so as you grow up, either you hugely resent your parents for doing that, or you actually don't identify it as wrong. Your parents become like friends to you, rather than you actually putting expectations on them to be your parent, and also to be able to sit in the fact that they fell short. Because a lot of us want to create context where our parents can still be perfect. Even though we recognize they're imperfect people, we still want them to kind of still be perfect in our mind. Yeah. So we're like, I know she didn't do this, or I know he didn't do that, but it's because XYZ. Look at the family they grew up in. Look at all these things that were going on around them. And it's like, no, sit in the fact your parents failed you. Sit in it. Just know why, because if you don't recognize that, you'll think when you go to parent, it's okay to have excuses. And that's not to say to put an unhealthy pressure on yourself to be perfect, but it is to say your children require their parents to show up for them. They require their parents to not expect much from them, but simply to pour and pour and pour and keep pouring into them, their personalities, their souls, their heart, their needs. That's what you're committing to when you're saying, I want to be a parent. This isn't just another accessory to your family. And this is also not you giving birth to a co-laborer. I'm not your co-laborer here. That's your spouse. That's your family. That is not me. I am here to be needy AF. That's my job. And elder daughter syndrome, you're not allowed to need. You're not allowed to want. All you have to do is give. All you have to do is serve in your position, because you can see that there is a lack, whether that be a parent is absent, there's a lack of resources, there's a lack of emotional availability even coming from your parents. So now you need to not only support your parents, but you need to also support your siblings emotionally. Your siblings cannot go to your parents and say, I'm being bullied. So instead they come to you, and you fill that gap because you know the pain of having an absent parent, and you don't want them to have experienced that. You want them to have someone there for them. But then the question is, who's there for you? Because you then don't want to ask your younger siblings to be there for you, because once, mainly they don't know nothing. Secondly, it's unfair, and you live the experience of that unfairness. And I think it hits you from so many different places. Like when we were doing the daddy issues episode, I went home and I was like, damn, daddy issues are ruining my life. And I was like, no, it's definitely the eldest daughter thing. It's more so the elder daughter thing, because having an absent father means you now step into the role of husband. A young girl stepping into the role of being somebody's husband is one of the most dysfunctional. Even the sentence doesn't make sense.
It's the worst thing.
But anyway, I've rambled on. This has been my segment of the podcast.
Well, have you seen the meme? I'm gonna head out.
So yeah, that's basically, if you want to be attacked from all levels on that whole being a spouse to your parent thing, go and listen to episode 2 of The Place We Find Ourselves, because I think he's a psychologist and a counselor. His name really escapes me right now. But the way he explains it, radically beautiful. Wow. But so painful.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's what we need though. Radically beautiful, but so painful.
Yes.
Wow. Courtney, wow.
Yeah.
I love you, man.
I love you too, man.
That was good. That was real meat. Like,
sorry for rambling for so long, but I was trying to put my thoughts together.
That wasn't rambling. That was perfectly articulated. You touched on so many like pertinent points, and damn, I'm even scrambling. I'm trying to find my edges, because they kind of, whilst you were talking, they were like, pluck, 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 pluck. And now I'm looking for the JBCO to stitch them back together again. But no, I love what you said about eldest daughters assuming the role of spouse, and this whole normalization of giving without receiving, right? Because there's so many of us, and to be honest, you don't necessarily have to be an eldest daughter for this to be your reality, but more so for eldest daughters, it often is the case that this is their reality.
So good.
And whilst I think it's really interesting on the part of like eldest daughters, we're forced to mature really quickly. I can imagine for the last born, they stay in that role of kid forever. But this is not your episode, guys. We'll deal with you another time. But in speaking to like my little sisters, understanding that like for parents, it's kind of like, okay, the eldest daughter is the, responsibility holder, whilst the last born or the middle kids tend to be they're kids.
They're kids.
Forever.
They're kids.
Forever.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to grow. And I love what you were saying about the fact that it manifests so much in the relationships that we have. I definitely was the kind of person whereby I found it difficult to articulate my needs, because I was never really given the space to do that in a functional way, right? And I also love what you said about recognizing when your parents have failed you, because I think it's so hard. It's so hard, especially if you are, I think class also has a big deal. Because... if you grew up broke, you ain't got no choice. You are the childminder. And I think it's that
you are
balance.
The cooker.
There we
you
go.
are the cleaner. You are the one helping with the homework, because mum's doing 7 shifts,
and then
so that
on
the lights
top
don't
of
turn
that,
off.
if you are from like a first generation migrant family, dealing with the fact that there's a disconnect between your parents and these institutions, and you having to be the bridgeway between the two. Woo! It's a lot. I was looking at some of the comments and hearing and reading the experiences of, filling out forms for your parents, or, liaising on behalf of your parents. There were times where, for me, I was talking to like GP receptionists also.
Oh, counsel.
This is not to shade GP receptionists, but some of you guys are rude.
Massively.
Very, very rude.
Massively.
And it's just gotten to a point where it's like, if I'm hearing disrespect, or if I'm hearing, somebody speaking to my mother type of way, I'm like, give me the phone. I will handle it. I will, because I don't know who you think you're speaking 100%. To. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's even these small responsibilities that we've taken on.
Yes.
We now find it very, very difficult to process that, but also demand love. Because we all deserve to be loved. And that's part of the reason why many of us find it so difficult to find love.
Hard.
And then I feel like there's two sides of the spectrum, right? As you were saying, the side of the spectrum where we find it difficult to articulate our need for love. We find it really, really difficult to let people in. And we find ourselves very lonely, or we find ourselves in situations where we keep on seeing that cycle of having people that deplete us come into our lives, because that's the only form of love that we've normalized, right? That's the only form of love that we've seen.
Yeah.
Or the flip side, where we actually actively go seeking really unhealthy or toxic people to fill the gaps that our parents never filled. We find ourselves in these relationships with people who are able to provide to us, but what they're providing to us is toxic. It's like looking for fruits and all of that kind of stuff, but not realizing that it's poisonous. Right. And because the only thing that we've seen is toxic, we're not even able to recognize our toxic need in eating that fruit. So we find ourselves with abusive partners. It doesn't even have to be physically abusive. It can be emotionally abusive. But because they're giving us something that we didn't have at all, attention, because they're giving us some form of financial stability, because they're giving us some form of stability and fulfillment, we're not recognizing that this fulfillment is actually depleting us even more by killing us slowly. And I think it's just so interesting how, and not even interesting, sad is the right word. I think it's so deplorable and sad.
She sounded deplorable.
I think it's so deplorable and sad that for many of us as siblings and people, children that have had to take up this mantle, because this is what it is. It's us stepping up. It evokes the image of a kid wearing their parents' sandals. It never really fits. And what's really interesting is even as we grow, that image is still there. There was something that you said, I think in one of our past conversations, where when you look at people, sometimes it feels like you can see the child peeking through the eyes of the adult. And I feel like for a lot of eldest siblings and a lot of eldest daughters in particular, they've remained that child peeking out of an adult's form, but the adult's form was formed when they were a kid. So they've never even experienced being the kid. It's just them in a kid, literally in the house of an adult. And they've never had that opportunity to really grow or mature. Good. And another thing, let me stop before I start rambling.
Go there.
This whole tendency towards perfectionism. I was definitely there. This whole I need to please, high functioning anxiety. Because I'm tired. Listen. I'm tired of having to, and I think the pressure of having to live up to other people's conceptions of you starts there, because you're already given this whole idea of you need to show up here because somebody didn't show up there. You need to, nurture and take care of, your little siblings because you don't want them to go through the same things that you went through. And as noble as it is to take up that mantle, it isn't right. It's not normal. Let's not normalize, eldest daughters taking up these mantles. They're still kids. We're still kids.
This is the thing.
And it's not fair.
This is the thing.
And we're tired.
Exhausted.
We're tired.
And I think it even lends you more, because a lot of LOL. When people see us and they're like, oh my God, you're so wise and you're so young, and it's trauma.
Is it?
I really want you to know it is the trauma. Because that's one thing that you learn to do when you are in that kind of dysfunctional situation is self-regulate. Right?
100.
One of the things you need from your parents is to teach you that it's okay to be angry, but this is how you control it, and create safe environments where you actually can show them weakness, anger, even rage, deep anger at situations, right? When you see kids having basically fits. Like when you see them just throwing temper tantrums and stuff, how their parents react to them is very important in forming their response to themselves and to other people, right? When you are in the position of daughter husband or son husband or daughter wife, whatever it may be, even son wife, whatever, when you're in the position of being your parent's spouse, you have to self-regulate. Your parent doesn't have time to deal with your fits because they need you to show up as a fully developed adult, like you're saying. You develop that armor of, okay, I will now learn how to best deal with my anger, and all the negative vices that come with humanity. I'm going to learn how to deal with that outside of my parents so that when my parent is present, I can show up for them in the way they need. And that's why a lot of us are young and develop very bad coping mechanisms. We become extremely self-reflective and self-aware very early on. And all of it is through the lens of suppression rather than actually allowing yourself to fully feel emotions.
Oh, Courtney, that is so good.
If you have like, when I was younger, I had pent up anger. And it's one of the biggest things that sent me to therapy. I can get very angry because I don't know how to process through anger. So if one thing and it takes a long while for me to get there, but once I'm there, ticking time, red, devil, like manic. I will tear everything. I will tear everything in my path. And it's something I'm really like asking God to heal me over because who is there to help you deal with those feelings of anger when you cannot be angry around your parents because they need you to be calm so that they can be angry or so that they can process through the hurt and the pain that they're feeling, or so that they can process through the fact that they're frustrated at work and they're offloading that onto you like they would a spouse
or a therapist
and now you can't be angry because either that's a whole different issue with parenting in terms of like your parents like being extremely too militant in disciplining you. That's another issue. But they're probably, you feel as though there is no space for you to be angry. There is no space for you to express your true emotions and feelings because your parent has taken up all that space. They've taken up all that space to be able to be free in their own emotions, to be able to be angry, sad, happy, whatever they're feeling. And they overwhelm you with that and they don't help you process through yours. And so, why did I bring this up again? And so when people are like, oh, you're so mature, you're so self-disciplined, you're so self-aware, you're so self-reflective, actually it's hyper self-regulation. I know how to regulate myself to accommodate for other people's madness. And that's why you then end up in toxic environments, because even though I am being provoked, even though I am being abused, even though I am, and this is not victim planning, I'm just giving this as an example, even though I am in an environment where I'm being taken advantage of, I know how to accommodate for other people's bad behavior. Because I've been doing it for my whole life. I know how to accommodate for other people's madness. I know how to be a soundboard for other people, even if it's not me being a soundboard, it's actually me being a sponge, and it's actually me receiving somebody's rage manifest in abusing me. I know how to self-regulate so that I can be in that position of meeting someone's needs, even if their needs harm me, like you're illustrating. And I think that that's one of the most painful things about this eldest syndrome thing, or being a child parent, because who is there to tell you don't have to take everyone's BS? Because you've been taking it for a while, right? But also, who is there to say, actually, you've built up too many coping mechanisms. All these addictions and all these dependencies that you have, and watching porn from a young age, being addicted to alcohol and drugs, being too dependent on your friends in an unhealthy way, or jumping into relationships from 12, 13. It's because you matured way too quickly. So and people take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, they do.
You see these daughter mums, let me just call them that, daughter mums, get into relationships. Either they are avoidant, they're massively avoidant of relationships, or they get into relationships from like 11. And I'm talking about fully blown relationships, sex and all. Because they're grown.
A lot of these babes are the ones that are cooking for mandem from the second date. I'm telling you.
Mac and cheese and chicken wings.
Listen, and because the only love they have seen or demonstrated is mothering, they're mothering their partners. They're out here doing all that, and this is why they keep on getting taken a mockery for. They're mothering their partners. They're mothering the people in their lives. And this is why, and the thing is, when the guy even leaves, Sha, they'll be out here saying, I gave you everything. But did he ask you to?
But then also, God help you if you end up with a guy, you find it, because a lot of guys go through this on the flip. You end up with a guy who's had to be a husband to their mom.
Oh, boy.
And that's how you get mummies, boys.
Yeah. Child, I ain't got time for that one. Girl.
And a lot of the way this massively manifests, especially in the life of men, is when you have had to be a husband to your mum, your father despises you.
Yeah.
How do you then have good accountability with other men when your experience with your primary male figure in your life is hatred? How do you then let somebody else, a man, discipline you?
Wow.
So you see a lot of men have no issue. Well, first of all, they'll have no accountability, or they'll be accountable to the women in their lives. But those women in their lives will allow them to cross certain boundaries because they exert their masculine power and they exert the I'm a man you wouldn't fully understand. But then if you were with a man who understood, who could put you in your place, that relationship is hard to build. Rightfully so, because your experience with your father was one of envy, hatred, jealousy. And then a lot of women on the flip side also experience their mothers being jealous of them, because they were fulfilling the needs, emotional needs of their father through this kind of like emotionally incestuous relationship of being their father's surrogate wife, because their mother didn't fulfill their father's emotional needs, right? So then you kind of get mothers who are like, she thinks she's all that. Who does she think she is?
It's giving Oedipus. Oedipus complex. It's giving a lot of Oedipus.
And there you go.
A lot of that. It's heavy. It's so dysfunctional.
That is the
so dysfunctional.
And God help us who grew up in cultures where this level of dysfunction is normalized.
Dysfunction.
Because it's just culture. We have parents who parented their siblings, even more than we parented our siblings. They were actually their siblings' parents, literally. Where our grandparents and great-grandparents may have gotten married when they were 14, 15. And you still kind of see it mirrored in our parents to us. When I was your age, I was married. When I was your age, I was this. Well, I was doing this. I was being able to provide this. And it's like, and that wasn't healthy.
It's clear that when you were my age, you were doing this.
And also, we are living in a very different time.
Exactly.
And I think that that's one of the, like you were saying, things that can get lost in translation. When you are kind of crossing cultures or living in kind of a hybrid culture within your household, where outside society may not actually mirror what's happening inside your four walls of home. And so,
All right, guys. Well, that's the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed. We take your offering in Mary. Can you bring the basket? Broadening out the conversation a little bit more to talking about sibling relationships, because when we talk about family, you know, it's always parent-child, and oh my God, I had so much childhood trauma. My parents, they hated me. Let's talk about those horizontal relationships, you know, being the eldest daughter, of course, but knowing that you have brothers and sisters. Why is it so important, particularly for women, to have healthy, functioning sibling relationships? And what do these look like?
I think because these are some of the primary relationships you have in your formative years, it's really important to invest in your siblings as much as possible. And also make sure that they're investing in having a healthy relationship with you, because siblings is one of those relationships where it can easily be one you see of convenience. Because we live together, probably because we even share a room, because we grew up together, we are forced to have a relationship. However, just like friendship, just like romantic relationships, your siblings at some point, especially as they are becoming their own individual people, will actually, to a degree, need to be pursued by you. They actually need to be understood, because they are not you. And they are also not your assumptions of them, because they also have a life outside of you. And because kind of talking in the same vein of like main character energy, for example, our siblings are automatically supporting roles in our lives.
Yeah.
And it can be very hard to actually see them as main characters in their life. I think we've talked about this before when our younger siblings have been like, okay, I'm going out with my friends. What friends? I am your friend.
You got friends?
What do you mean?
Where do they live? Where do they come from?
You have friends. And then you become, and especially if you have this eldest daughter syndrome, you can kind of become anxious because you're like, similar to how a parent would be, who is my child going to be with? Who is influencing them? Are they in danger? And you have to also give your siblings the freedom that you would expect to have as an individual person. So I think that's one of the first things you kind of have to unpack as like an elder sibling. I think another key factor that is important in keeping good relationships with your siblings, you actually influence the way they form relationships with other people and their view of themselves. You are one of the greatest influences in their life, right? And whether you are older or younger, whatever, their proximity to you and the fact that they know you more vulnerably than anybody else, their approval or their disapproval of you, your character, and whatever it is that you do actually may matter more to you than anyone else, right? Whether you like them or not. The fact that they are so close to you, whether they feel close emotionally or whatever, the fact that they know you more than anyone, they probably know more about your dysfunctions than anybody else does. The times where your parents were off to work, they knew what you were getting up to. Your siblings know you.
They've seen you at your ugliest.
They've seen you at your ugliest and at your worst. I can definitely attest to that for my siblings. They've seen you at your worst, and so they can actually see through the pretense, and they will probably be the greatest source of feedback as to whether the work you're doing on this glowing and growing journey as a woman is actually working, because they know you and they've seen your dysfunctions and what you've been through, and they've probably been on the receiving end of negative things that not only you experienced but also that you perpetrated. And so I think it's important to kind of hold them close enough to allow them to see that vulnerability but also have an input into your life. But I also think it's important for you to pay attention to the way you've negatively affected them or positively affected them and reinforce the positives, or really work on overcoming the negative and apologize. Because I think one thing that we often see from our primary caregivers, aka our parents, is there's never a desire to rebuild those connections and an apology and an acknowledgement of wrongdoing. But I think in knowing that now, it's easier to kind of look to your siblings and be like, I'm sorry I did that. I'm sorry I acted like that. I don't want to be another perpetrator of not building connections with you and not rebuilding broken connections with you. And so that's kind of ways that you can actively do it. But I think just it is important to have good relationship with your siblings. However, as somebody who doesn't have a great relationship with some of their siblings, sometimes some people need to be let go. And that's actually okay. Just because you were born with the same blood as someone doesn't actually mean you have to do life with them forever. You can actually erect very firm and solid boundaries between people you share blood with. And I think that whilst it's not something you want to do, if it does get to that position of one person or two people being unwilling to actually build a healthy, functional relationship. If you are in a toxic environment, just because somebody is related to you, you gotta go. And oftentimes we see this play out in terms of siblings, because we grow into individual people. And like I said, it's no longer out of convenience anymore. I need you to intentionally love me. And in your ability to intentionally love me and love me well is based on you getting to know me as a person.
100.
And unfortunately, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to get to know our siblings as individual people. We see them through the lens of our upbringing, what we saw in childhood. Some of us haven't even allowed our younger siblings, like we were expressing, to actually grow up in our mind's eye, because I know what you were like when you were running around in diapers. I'm not that person anymore. So now what? I've got so many other experiences that have compounded and made this unique experience in existence that is me, that you don't know about because you won't take the time to actually get to know me. That takes time though, and that takes effort. So yeah.
Absolutely. And in commenting just on your last point insofar as erecting those boundaries, it makes me think of the popular phrase, blood is thicker than water, which is actually a misnomer, guys. That's not the correct.
Educate them, boo.
That is not the correct phrase. The actual elongated correct phrase is the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, which is basically exactly what you were saying, right? If someone has not made the commitment or the covenant with you, to have a healthy functioning relationship, unfortunately, you gotta go. I don't care if you're half sibling, quarter related to me, fully related, 3/4 related to me. If you're trying to do the work and no one is willing to meet you halfway, then sometimes it's a case of I've got to actually protect myself, which is fine. But obviously in the best case scenario, we want healthy relationships everywhere.
Yeah.
And do be mindful of the fact that your sisters and brothers will become uncles and aunties. And when you finally bring, you know, somebody home, they're going to have to meet the rest of your craziness. Yeah. They're going to be brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws. So it's really important to actually invest in those relationships now, because they're part of your community too. Yeah. We jump to romantic relationships, but now we're also jumping to friendships, and it's like, you need to, your house is in disarray.
Your house is not
your
in
house,
order.
Your actual, how can you expect, right? A lot of us are like, when I become a parent, or when I become whatever, when I have my family, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to do all of these kind of things. You haven't spoken to your brother in 2 years. You haven't even tried.
You haven't tried. It's the trying. It's the trying. You haven't tried. All these super positive things that you think you're going to do with your kid, and every Thursday we're going to pray together. We're going to wake up and do Bible study together. And have you tried that? Have you actually tried to commit yourself to that routine already with the people that exist? You've been actually currently exist.
The people that exist.
And also you have to remember, like, it is actually a ministry to be a sister or a brother to someone. And you need to, it's a ministry to be a daughter. It's actually a position of servitude. You need to see, how can I best serve you? How can I best serve you as a sister or a brother? If you don't seek to do that, how do you think you're going to serve anybody else with willingness?
And some of you suck. Like some of you guys suck. You have been an excellent mother, but you've been a terrible sister. And you're not meant to be a mother. And some of you will think, oh, I've been a great sibling because you've taken up the position of the mother. Actually, no, you haven't. You've been a great mother. It's literally like, thanks for doing this role, but actually your real role was this.
And you failed
at it. So whilst you can acknowledge, I've stepped in here and I've stepped up for you here, you've actually fallen here. And you need to acknowledge that too. Which is why for us, like, we can't conceptualize our, younger siblings growing up, or vice versa, where our younger siblings have taken advantage of or have depended far too much on older siblings where the parents have failed. And we've seen that even continue when you get older, where it's, instead of going to mum and dad for something, you're now going to your older sibling for money, or to bail you out of jail, or your older sibling to help you with your dissertation, or your older sibling to do all the kind of things that your parent was meant to do. You have failed as a brother or a sister. Acknowledging that there are gaps that you have not filled, whilst there are other gaps that you have honorably stepped up to fill, is important. Because it's so easy for us to now be going, oh, I've been the eldest daughter and I've showed up here and I've showed up here, and who was there to show up for me? You showed up incorrectly. And whilst it's not your fault, you still showed up incorrectly.
And it's not your sibling's job now to heal you.
It's not.
I think that's another issue. It's like you have so much built up resentment towards your siblings now, but they didn't ask you to feel that. They were actually collateral.
They could have been in the they could, and that's even another point, right? Whilst many of you guys may have had traumatic experiences shared with your siblings, the way that they manifest is different. Their response will also be different. Their emotions as a result of these things will be different. The way that they are as a character, like whilst they are supporting, the way that you've conceived of them as a supporting character in your story is different to the way that they conceive of themselves as the main character in their stories. And understanding that you, as you were saying so beautifully, you need to pursue your siblings too. You need to actually actively you need to make time for your siblings too. Like right now, my siblings we do a thing where we do our monthly sibling days out, and we try to like do fun stuff and get to know each other, play like games and stuff, or go out to eat, because we want to normalize. We don't want to wait till the next generation to start being a functional family. The functionality starts now and carries through, as opposed to let's start building the foundation when new people come in. Actually build the foundation before they're introduced, so that you have a leg to stand on and you can continue to build, as opposed to waiting to build something new. Start with the blocks that you have now.
And so that they can help you build those things. Because like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. The more people you have in that community who are invested, the better.
Some of you are showing more sisterhood to your friends than your sister.
Oh, Jesus. Well, drag us then. Drag us by our eyelashes, in fact.
Some of you are better sisters to your friends than your real sister.
Listen.
Some of you are better sisters to other men. Some of you are serving other men better than you're serving your brothers.
Listen. Especially if they've made it clear, or you can even see a semblance that they want a relationship with you.
You are out here running to get dates on Tinder, but when was the last time you went out for lunch with your brother?
And this is something that you highlighted so well, right? You can put so much of these expectations on your partner or on your spouse that actually can be fulfilled by other people. Some of our partners can really crumble under the weight of our expectations because we're putting all of our community expectations and our needs from community onto their shoulders. And it's like, no, go and talk to your brother, go and talk to your sister, go and talk to your friend. I don't need all of this right now. And that's not to say they should be absent. It's to say when you kind of create as many avenues as possible for you to get nourishment, you can draw from everyone in a healthy way rather than in a toxic, you need to meet all my needs. You need to meet all my needs and being super needy and thirsty all the time. Drink from many wells, honestly, but make sure that those wells are healthy. That's healthy water.
That's the key. Why do you people like dysfunction like this? Like, oh, I hate my brother. My brother hates me. And you think that's
used
good?
To it. Because we're used to it.
You think that's normal? You think that's fine?
I think that's okay.
Your brother is going to be your son or daughter's uncle.
Yeah. Well, that's if you let them in their life.
I mean, there's that too. You need to think about that because, like it's not just the family insofar as the family you're going to have. It's the family that's pre-existing. What can you do to build what you already have and carry through?
The village around you.
The village around you.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a hearty episode. Hearty. I think we've given the girls quite a bit today. I was even conscious of time.
I think we've even just scratched the surface. But thank you for coming to our TED Talk and listening to our ramblings and rantings,
our musings and our conversations and all of that good jazz. But in all honesty, I hope that you guys did feel fed by this.
Hopefully.
I hope. And if you didn't feel fed by this, there's other podcasts.
Massively.
Courtney mentioned. But more importantly, we also want to hear what you guys have to say. Talk to us about your experiences. Are you the eldest daughter, the middle child, the youngest child?
I would love to actually hear for children who felt like their siblings assumed a parental figure in their life. How do they now feel?
Yeah.
Like, what are their views of their parents and their views of their siblings? And what are their hindrances? And what actually stops them, if there are any, from building healthy relationship with those siblings that were parents them? Because I've had my younger sister express to me, you're doing too much. Like, I'll let her, that's her story to tell. Yeah. But like, just this idea of, how do I now actually pair you as a sibling when my whole life you've been my mom? Yeah. Now I can't come to you. We've shared this before in like our sex episode, I think. Where like our siblings were struggling to come and ask us things about sex because they see us as their parents. And it's like, no, I'm your sister. Like, you can talk to me about anything. And they're like, girl. No, like, I can't. It's weird.
It's strange.
Yeah.
It's really strange. And even thinking of that, I was thinking like when I was talking to my sisters, like we went out for cocktails for the first time. And the way my sister was sipping on that alcohol, I was looking at her and I was like, are you drinking alcohol? She's like, I'm actually 18 and you're the one that took me out. And I was just like, why are you sipping? The way you're sipping that alcohol, I don't like it.
Yeah, or even like when they get like a boyfriend and you're like, tell me about your boyfriend. But at the same time, why the hell do you have a boyfriend? If you don't focus on your books, but at the same time, how was your day? And then inside you're dying.
And it's just like, so who is the guy? Let me check.
100%. And there's a healthy level of being a protective older sibling. But I think where it crosses into the boundary of dysfunctional when there cannot be that openness and vulnerability because there's too much fear. So
all right, girls, we're gonna stop. We promise. But we hope that you enjoyed the episode. And if there's anything else you'd like to mention or share or any of that good stuff, you already know where to find us. Over here on YouTube. Subscribe.
Definitely.
Maybe. And also a big welcome to all the newbies because we've had a lot of new subscribers in the last week.
We've had
a lot of people joining the TMS community. Welcome to the party. Insert Pop Smoke voice. And listen, you're in for a real ride. And if you're new, welcome. Please feel free to check out some of our other episodes. We have gone through everything and more, from relationships and sex to business and entrepreneurship to dealing with trauma and the glow up. So make sure you check out those episodes. And if you're a returning sister, hey sis, we don't take it for granted. We love you. Thank you for rocking and riding with us from the beginning. It's crazy to see how much we've grown, and we can't wait to see even more sisters join the sisterhood. Oh my God. Thank you guys. But yeah, you can continue to support us and follow us on Instagram. You can follow our page at To My Sisterhood and come say hi to us individually. We always like a good cheeky individual hello at CD Boateng and at Renee Kapuku.
Yes, sisters. But of course, you can also go and cause a ruckus over on the timeline on Twitter by using the hashtag To My Sisters and atting us same handle at To My Sisterhood. And if you haven't already, go and sign up to the mailing list.
You better.
You need to, all these like things that we're listening to, reading, we drop them in the mailing list. All the resources that you guys are asking for, they come straight to your inbox. You just got to type in your little email.
That's it.
So head over to tomysisters.com, sign up to the mailing list. You can also send us a dilemma on there. I've seen a couple comments of people being like, where do we send our dilemmas? You can email them directly to hello@tomysisters.com, or you can send them on our website, tomysisters.com.
With the subject dilemma.
Oh yes, and please, please word count 100 words.
Oh,
we want to help you, but it's hard to plow through dilemmas when they are dissertations. I've already told y'all, I don't like to read words.
Courtney does not like.
I don't like to hear words. So if you could like keep them kind of short and concise, that would be absolutely amazing. Just so that we could get through them and like just get them. And also I don't read very well either, so when they're super long I'm like stumbling on words and it's a lot. It's a me thing. Help me out.
Oh no, it's also it's I enjoy reading, but conciseness is a it's the trait of the modern woman.
It's the trait of the modern woman.
We love you guys, but conciseness is the trait of the modern woman. It is.
But definitely send us your dilemmas, and we will talk to you very soon. Very, very soon. If you haven't already, check out TMS Plus. But we'll talk to you soon, sisters. We hope that this really blessed you and helped you. We're praying for you. As always, keep glowing and growing.